For years, I cherished the flawless harmony of my life, a perfect marriage, an immaculate home. But as time passed, subtle fractures began to appear beneath that polished surface, eroded by an invisible weight. I felt it stirring within me, a transformation not only in my spouse but also deep within myself. The familiar rhythm of our days, once a source of comfort, now felt like a rope constricting my soul. The passion that once blazed between us had faded into polite exchanges and tense silences. Then I encountered him, my supervisor, at work. His charm was magnetic, his smiles disarming, his words a soothing salve for a heart my husband seemed to overlook. Initially, I brushed it off as innocent flattery, a light-hearted interaction with no hidden intent. Yet, in the quiet recesses of my thoughts, I knew it ran deeper. His gaze awakened something in me, making me feel truly noticed, seen in a way I hadn't been in years. When he suggested dinner, I told myself it was harmless. One night turned into 2, then 3. I convinced myself it was nothing serious, that I wasn't betraying my vows. But the lies piled up, each one heavier, weaving a complex web I could no longer untangle. It wasn't just physical attraction. It was an emotional connection that gripped me, understanding me in ways I hadn't realized I longed for. The guilt, however, grew overwhelming. Each time I returned home, my husband's earnest attempts to bridge the gap pierced my conscience, a stark reminder of my disloyalty. Still, I clung to the illusion that my secret was safe. Deep down, I knew the truth was a ticking time bomb. One evening, as I scrolled through my phone, I noticed my husband in the doorway, his eyes locked on me. There was no rage in his expression, not yet, but the atmosphere thickened with doubt. His voice was unnervingly calm as he asked about the texts from my boss, posing the question I dreaded most. How do you know where he lives? Time seemed to stop. My heart pounded, the burden of my deception nearly suffocating me. I couldn't muster a convincing lie. The words lodged in my throat. As he stood there, too perceptive, too close to unraveling everything, I was consumed by regret. When I finally whispered, I didn't mean for it to happen, I saw the heartbreak in his eyes. He wasn't angry. He was broken. I faced him, the weight of my confession hanging like a dark cloud between us. My voice trembled, but the truth was already painfully evident. He had seen the signs, the subtle shifts in my behavior, the moments when I was physically there but emotionally distant, the growing divide between us. My admission shattered everything. Yes, anger flared within him, but it was eclipsed by a deeper sorrow. The woman he had trusted, with whom he had built a life, had become a stranger. My web of deceit had torn our world apart. Yet even in his pain, a spark of determination ignited within him, a resolve that neither I nor my boss would escape unscathed. If we thought we could destroy his life without consequence, we were gravely mistaken. Something fierce had awakened in him, a thirst for justice, for retribution, and he would pursue it relentlessly. He left the house, the door closing with a heavy finality, but this wasn't his defeat. It was his awakening. He drove through the night, his mind a storm of emotions, seeking clarity. He didn't know where he was headed, but he knew he had to act. We would face the consequences of our betrayal. He found himself at my boss's doorstep. It was late, but time was irrelevant now. He rang the bell, his thoughts a whirlwind of everything he needed to say. To me he had said enough. But my boss, he deserved far worse. When the door opened, my boss's usual arrogant confidence greeted him, as if he were untouchable. He was mistaken. This time, my husband wasn't his subordinate to be manipulated. He was a man ready to demand justice. I know what you've done, he said, his voice steady. You thought you could take my wife, my trust, my life, and walk away unscathed. My boss's confusion turned to realization as my husband presented the incriminating messages, undeniable proof of his betrayal. He stammered through excuses, but my husband wasn't listening. No justification could erase the line he'd crossed. You think you can just move on from this? He asked, his voice laced with contempt. You're wrong, he continued, stepping closer, cutting off any chance for a response. You'll lose everything. Your job, your reputation, your place in this company. All you've built will crumble because you couldn't resist what didn't belong to you. He left my boss there, pale and shaken, his mind reeling from the impending consequences. As he walked away, a quiet resolve settled over him. He was no longer the victim. He had taken control, drawn a line we would regret crossing. The next day, he strode into the company's headquarters. He had already spoken to colleagues, uncovering rumors about things they'd witnessed, things they shouldn't have. It didn't take much to set things in motion. With evidence in hand, he ensured it reached HR, the board, anyone who mattered. He wouldn't let my boss slip away. No one who betrayed him would. His aim wasn't just to ruin my boss's career. He wanted to strip him of everything he held dear, to leave him as powerless as my husband felt when the truth came to light. The rumors spread like wildfire, doubts infiltrating every corner of my boss's professional life. His world began to collapse, just as my husband had intended. He didn't stop there. He called in favors from old contacts, influential figures who could make life difficult for my boss. He knew the corporate landscape well enough to pull the right strings. Soon, my boss's reputation was under siege, his deals questioned, his emails scrutinized for any trace of misconduct. My husband wasn't just dismantling his career. He was ensuring he'd never recover. But his vengeance wasn't solely professional, it was deeply personal. He made sure I understood the consequences of my actions. I thought I could hide behind my lies, but he wouldn't let me forget the devastation I'd caused. He sat me down, laying bare the wreckage I'd created, watching as tears streamed down my face, my pleas for forgiveness falling on deaf ears. "Did you think this would just disappear?" he asked, his voice cold. "Did you believe you could destroy our life and walk away unscathed?" I had no answer, and I didn't need one. His mind was made up. Our marriage, our trust, it was over. He walked out that night, leaving me behind, with no intention of turning back. Reconciliation wasn't his aim. He was focused on reclaiming his strength, his power, and neither I nor my boss would take that from him. Months later, his revenge took full form. My boss's career lay in ruins, the company had severed ties with him, and he'd become an outcast in the business world, a name to avoid. I faced my own reckoning, my apologies and attempts to mend things falling flat. He had moved forward, transformed into someone stronger, sharper. My betrayal had shattered him, but it had also forged a new version of himself, one that was unstoppable. Revenge wasn't just about making us suffer, it was about reclaiming the control we'd stolen. If you've ever been betrayed, you know the fury, the helplessness, the burning need to settle the score. Don't just endure it. Make them regret crossing you. Let their pain fuel your rise. And let them watch as you soar beyond their reach. Revenge isn't just about punishment, it's about ensuring they never forget the cost of their actions. In the end, the victor is the one who never yields.